anybody know when the Viking Age started? Most people say 793. That's what historians usually peg it at. And that was when the raid on Lindisfarne happened, which was a monastery in an island that is part of the UK now. But there was actually a recorded, well, not actually recorded raid before then, but they found a longship on an island in Estonia that they are basically saying that this raid happened somewhere between 700 and 750. And there were some gentlemen that were doing some digging there at a construction site, and they found what was left of the ship. They found 40 skeletons and more weapons, more swords than there were actually skeletons in this hole. And they know that these people were from Scandinavia because they tested the isotopes in the teeth, and they took a look at the weapons, and they took a look at the ships. So they were able to determine that these people were from Scandinavia. It was during the Viking Age, and it was probably a raid. And all of these people, these skeletons that they found on the boats, all of these people died a violent death. So what I'd like to do is to talk about the types of weapons that people used during the Viking Age, some of the combat techniques that they used, and I'm going to use each of my people to demonstrate different weapons that they favor. The gentleman who's our foremost spear expert is actually on the injured list, so he's not here today. So I'm going to ask Avent to demonstrate spear work, because of all the other of my Vikings that we have here today, he's the most learned. So what I'd like to start with is to talk about the shield. When you see a movie, when you see actors holding their shield and sword, whether it's the Viking Age or the Norman Age or whatever it is, the shield always seems to be something to protect them from things that are coming forward, if arrows are coming at them. And when they're in a fighting stance, it's always this. And this is not how they fought or even how they held their shields during the Viking Age, unless, of course, you were in formation and you were pushing against another group that was also in formation, or if you were really trying not to get hit with an arrow. The actual correct stance, could you hand me one of the notes, please? The actual most common stance would have looked more like this. Just as a boxer would stand, you're never going to stand flat-footed. You're always going to have your feet positioned so that you have stability. Every house needs a strong foundation, and here, your legs are your foundation. Your main offensive weapon was your shield. And if you really want to look at it from a basic standpoint, it's an extension of your fist. So you're holding it like so, you're resting it on your shoulder, it takes up some of the weight, you can still see, and as you're moving, you're keeping your feet planted. And if you have an opportunity to strike somebody who's also holding a shield, you want to try to either smack the edge of your shield into theirs to move it out of the way. And that's essentially how the shield was used. In explanation, Bjorn, could you grab a... So, Bjorn and I, here we are, our main weapon. And Bjorn is going to pretend that he's right off the farm and he has no knowledge of combat. So he's holding his shield in a way that me, as a seasoned fighter, I know right off the bat that this guy, either he's pretending that he doesn't know anything, or he probably doesn't know how to use the methods that I know how to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the edge of my shield to move his and create an opening. And what I'm going to do is feign I'm coming over the top. He's going to either try to block it with his shield, which is another big mistake because I can cut his legs off, or he's going to try to stop it with the sword, which will do this and move his shield aside and thrust him through the center. So as you can see, the shield, most people have Most people have the idea that this is just to protect yourself. But really is, again, it's the offensive weapon in inviting Viking combat system of fighting. So, aside from moving the shield out of the way, I could actually feign low and then just smash his face in with my shield. Unfortunately, when we spar, it's not something that we do, because if I were to hit him in the face with this, I could either break his jaw or cave his face in, or he'd have no teeth. So we haven't worked around a way to actually use the shield to its full potential, because we would hurt each other, and that's not what it's about. We don't wear fencing equipment. We wear the same type of helmets that they would have worn during the day. Some of us wear mail. Bjorn and I are simply dressed in the woolen clothing that they would have worn during the Viking Age, which would not have protected you from any of the weapons of the time. I also wear, could you bring that over? An extremely wealthy person, or an extremely successful warrior during the Viking Age may have owned something like this. And there's a gentleman that I know in Western Massachusetts who I got my start from, literally, not necessarily my start from, but where I caught the Viking bug. And what he used as a description of a mail shirt, essentially, this would have been the value of a large house, a brownstone in Boston. So when you saw somebody wearing, if you saw somebody in the battlefield during the Viking Age wearing a mail shirt like this, you immediately thought two things. One, that person is very wealthy and successful, and two, that person is probably going to kill me. And have you ever touched one of these before? This weighs about 20 pounds. And this type of mail is called riveted mail. So you have 4 solid rings and 1 ring in the center that's actually open. When they make the mail, when they actually stitch all this together, the way they do it is they take the open ring and they join the 4 other rings together. They put a pin through it, and then they pin it over. So it's homogeneous now, just like the rest of the solid rings. Another symbol of wealth during the Viking Age is the sword. The same gentleman that gave me the brownstone example basically said, to put this into perspective, this was the Mercedes of the Viking Age. Again, very, very uncommon on the battlefield. The only people that would be carrying a sword on the battlefield was either somebody that was good enough to kill somebody and take it, or somebody that was successful enough to be able to afford to pay for a sword such as this to be forged for him. Bjorn, what's the example and the value of one of these swords?
A good sword was about a mark and a half of silver to a mark of gold. It's about a pound, almost a pound.
And how many cows would that equal?
Roughly 70.
So 70 heads of cattle. This would be worth in those days. And I know I'm jumping around a little bit here, but I like to jump around. I am chaos. So what I'm going to say about cows is people during the Viking Age didn't eat a lot of beef. They would use bowls to move things, to also breed with their cows so they could have more cows. But the cows were a sustainable source of food. If you had a cow, you could get milk, you could get cream. You could take that cow, you could take the cream, and you could make butter. If you ate your cow, you could no longer get any of those things. So when you look at the perspective value of this item and you say the value of 70 cows, that's a huge sum of money. What would you say that would be, Matt, in today's money? $50,000?
I don't know much about ranching, but
the value of those cows, if they are probably worth $1,100 a head, 70, that's over $70,000. That's almost $80,000 easily.
Yeah, if not
So to see somebody carrying one of these in the battlefield was rare. And when you saw this person, you knew that this was a person that was going to be somebody to reckon with. So what I'd like to start with, in demonstrating how some of these weapons were used. I'm going to call Alfie. Alfie is our Stellari. Stellari would be the senior-most veteran in a group of Vikings. For us, she's my second in command. When I'm not around, she does all the training. She's the head trainer. I'm not going to continue to throw confetti at you, but I just wanted to let you guys know what Alfie's about. So, grab this lens, Alfie. Okay, so Alfie and I are going to go half speed. Alfie and I are we're the best swords in the group. When we do events and we're kitted up and we're using either blunts, with blunts we tend to go half to 3/4 speed. When we're using wooden wasters, which are generally made out of red oak or hickory, we go full speed. She and I are the only ones that do that because she can really get hurt otherwise. So some of the folks that aren't as experienced as we are, we have them for the first year or so spar and train with wooden wasters and not the metal swords. Should work on this.
Any questions? Real quick?
So, Alfie here, her nickname in the group is Leg Biter. There are a few things that I've learned in my journey when it comes to trying to figure out exactly how they fought. And you can read about it, you can watch it, but when you do it, when you actually hold the shield in your hand, you feel its weight. You hold the sword in your hand, you feel its weight. It brings a completely different perspective, and you realize that there are advantages and there are also limitations that are involved with this combat set. Again, I know I said that this was the Mercedes of the battlefield. Wasn't the most common weapon. We'll get into the other weapons later. And you'll see that sword's a great thing. It's cool. It's wonderful. Everybody knows what a sword is. But when you're in action against another weapon that has reach or speed, it doesn't seem that great anymore. So my style of fighting is usually power. I like a little bit of shield work. Alfie is like a boxer, so you have to expect combinations from her, and she'll throw a flurry of them at you until there's an opening, and then she'll take the advantage. So she'll take the opportunity to hit you, usually in the legs, which is why her nickname is Leg Biter. So. So, as you can see, pretty much every time I hit her, she hits me, and vice versa. It's really hard not to get hit when you're fighting in this style of combat. Also, keep in mind they didn't have penicillin back then. They may have known about tourniquets. If you got cut, or if you got stabbed, even if you didn't die on the battlefield, you probably were going to die horribly of some sort of terrible infection. So, let's break off for a second. In this style of combat, again, remembering the value of a weapon like this kind of pirate stuff, this is not what happened. They didn't fight using sword on sword type of combat or using your sword to block something, unless, of course, if I make a mistake and she feigns high, and I bring my sword out, my shield out, I'm going to do this because I don't want to die. And when they have grave finds in Norway, Scandinavia, UK, and Eastern Europe, they find swords in in Viking age graves, and a lot of them have a lot of nicks and chips taken out of them, and that's simply because that type of thing happened all the time. If I were to come down really hard on the shield boss, raise your shield up. I mean, that's metal, this is metal, it would probably damage my sword. But again, as a practice, this blade on blade type of stuff, it's just not how we fought. Voila. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for killing me.
Just me. Yeah.
Okay, so now what I'd like to see is, I'd like to see Eyvind and Bjorn. And Eyvind, grab a spear. And I'll make it difficult for you. You take a sword. And I'll let Bjorn vocalize this. You'll see the difference in the technique used and the advantages that you get when you're holding a weapon with such a long shaft. You've got reach, you've got speed. The actual shaft of the spear is a fulcrum. It's, I don't want to steal his fire, but it's amazing.
So, probably the most common weapon in the Viking Age was a spear. The spear was the most common because only the tip of it was made out of precious iron or steel, so it's at the time very scarce and hard to come by or hard to manufacture. Sure. And as the majority of it is the length of the shaft on wood, it had a very large, long reach, which meant that if used effectively, you could keep your opponent or enemy at bay and had plenty of time to really figure out what exactly was going to go on, how you were going to best use that against your opponent and break through the defenses. It's a thrusting weapon primarily. You can also use it to slash. Exactly. And because of that, such a small target for me to hit away, and it's easy to manipulate my shield as well. If I'm taking a more defensive stance, you can either put my shield at the edge and knock it to the side, leaving it completely open.
For someone else, it would be over my side.
Right, for someone else. Often, skirmishes were in large melee, so there were multiple people fighting all around you. And likewise, in shield walls, spears were kept behind the wall, and you could reach over the person's shoulder or head, knock the shield out of the way, and leave me completely open to someone else to finish me off. Because of this, they're a very dangerous weapon to go against, and I guess you'll see a little bit how it works in action. Ready? Very easy for him to quickly move around and switch positions to a high guard or a low guard. And he can easily, use the spear to move under my shield or around me while I'm trying to manipulate it and basically run the length of his shaft all the way out to reach in striking zone or in striking distance. Just having the reach alone gives him a huge advantage when it comes to a single combat or a small group skirmish. So it's very difficult to get past and get myself within striking distance to finish him off. I basically have to, I'm forced to rush at him as fast as I can and hope to feint or expose a slight flaw so I can get past the killing edge of the spear tip, the safety of, or relative safety of just the pole itself. Get myself nice and close to finish him off with the sword. So against the sword, it's very, very challenging. Not sure very not.
Well done, Bjorn. I just want to interrupt for a second. One thing that's going on here that you guys don't know about, well, not some of you know about, is the fact that if they were on a field somewhere, Avon would have even more of an advantage. The problem here is this simulates the deck of a ship. So if Avon were in the field fighting Bjorn, Avon could keep backing up until next Tuesday, until Bjorn got tired or made a mistake, and then he would use the spear to good effect. But here, if Bjorn moves past the blade of his spear, Bjorn has the advantage now because Bjorn's got a close-in weapon, and Avon has a distance. Carry on, gentlemen.
No, that's exactly my next point I was going to make. The great advantage is just because you have so much extra reach and you have extra time to watch them come towards you, you can also, as I'm trying to run and rush towards my opponent Avon here, he can simply, if we weren't on the deck of the ship or in close quarters like this, if we were out in the field, skirmish, he can back all the way up to the piano off stage. And I just have to run and chase after him and hope I don't trip over myself, or hope someone else doesn't get me while I'm focused on you. Because of the spear, I'm forced to take a more defensive stance. So I could charge towards them with a more open swordsman stance, but I believe in myself as more vulnerable. So I'm forced to hold the shield in front of me, which I have to brace it against my head or against my side, and it's very draining and exhausting and no fun. Axe is next. The next most common weapon in the Viking Age was an axe. Seen here. This is a blunt one we use for sparring. Typically, an axe would have a very pronounced beard, which is this elongated drop blade. It was a handheld tool used for carving or woodworking, and the point of the beard was to chuck up and get a very refined control over what you were working on, but it doubled in combat. Because of the beards, the Viking axe, while it had a little bit of a shorter range than a sword, considerably shorter than a spear, you could use that drop, that beard in the axe, to hook shields and pull them out of the way, leaving the person completely open and vulnerable, or you can hook shoulders or limbs or arms or weapons. So if I were to come here, hook it away, and completely pull me off guard and leave me open. It was a common weapon because every person who owned a home would have an axe lying around. I'm sure most of you do in your sheds. Just because it was the most common tool of the age. So someone going to battle would simply go outside, grab their axe, pull out the stump or the chop away, and their merry way. I'm going to show you a little bit how it works. So it's that very close quarters fighting that you see often. It's very similar, the same kind of work and stance is very similar with the sword, but hook a shield, pull it out of the way, pull someone off balance. Any questions about the weapons? Their use? Anything more you want to see?
Because I'm the leader of the group, that means that I'm the father of the group. And any father who has children likes to torture them once in a while. And my favorite person in the group to torture is Alfie, because she's really good at what she does. So what I like to do is I like to pair her up with two fighters and have her go up against two fighters instead of just one fighter. So Alfie, I would like to see Alfie against Einar and Avon with swords. Yeah. Or actually, let's have Einar use the axe that he was just using.
I don't know, just don't die for the next one. It's all about like peripheral vision, being aware of what your opponents are doing, just being fluid, being adaptable. We'll see how it goes. Give it a whirl.
You're sandbagging Alfie.
We'll see.
Just don't tell me.
I would also just like to point out, and this is not an excuse, we are using blunted steel weapons, and they are blunt, but they still hurt a lot when you get hit by them. So with steel, we try to take, I know he mentioned this before, we do take it a little bit slower, which is why it sometimes can look a little clunky, but we don't really do the faking death thing. We like to fight too much, so we just reset when someone dies. So I don't want you guys to think that we really think this is what it looked like on the battlefield, because that's what the wooden weapons are for. That's where you can go really hard. All right, here's a good break.
Nice hit.
Nice, you got my knee too. That was a little bit stalemate, knee hit. Again? What do you want, girl?
How about Bjorn, you get up there too. 2 on 2.
Oh, okay.
I let that hang in the air for a while on purpose. Because I'm evil. Aiden took the field?
Huh?
Did Aiden just take the field?
No,
We all
they both killed each other. Well, they both lost an arm, so they're both going to be dead soon anyway.
Alright, so you guys hold. Excellent. Well, this is what we had planned for tonight. So what we move into at this point is
Drinking.
ask the audience what they would like to see. Or ask the audience if you have any questions about individual weapons or how the shields are made or anything. Does anyone have any questions?
When you guys are going really hard at it, the wooden wasters. I assume at some point, probably more towards Alpha, and she seems to be the most experienced in combat. Does it start to become more instinct than like thought process?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's muscle memory.
Okay.
Just building up, because what we do is we used to have a training dummy that we would hit, and he went through 3 incarnations before he just died. So now we have a hell that we practice strike zones on. We have anywhere between 6 and 9, I guess 7 and 9 striking zones that we practice.
Depending on which weapon system we're training.
Right.
Experience.
But it's all tailored around the I'm going to use you as a dummy for a second. It's all tailored around the vital points on the body that would be you would be able to hit easily through armor or unprotected. So neck shots here, right at the juncture of the shoulder and the
That would
neck.
be 1.
That's 1 and 2, or like that. Hold on, look. 3 and 4 are rib shots here, because usually armor is weak in the armpits. 5 and 6 are hip shots, because if you cut somebody here, they're going to be hurting for a little bit. And then we throw in sometimes the thigh shots because of the arteries in the legs. And if you look at skeletons from battlefields from that time period, there are a lot of leg wounds. So these are big hits too. And then we have our overhead and our stab, which are both 7 or 9, depending on the system. So we practice those a lot. Like every time we get up there, hey guys, let's go rappel, let's do 1 through 9, 1 through 7, whatever it is, and we just do. And then I'll call out
And we try to restrict thrusts to the more experienced warriors in our group, because thrusts are the most dangerous. And that's because literally a blunt sword will go through your teeth, through the back of your head and kill you, even though it's a butter knife.
Or
So we try to avoid that. And the thrusts that we throw at each other, if Alfie and I are sparring, it's generally the guts and the thighs, never to the face.
Yeah. This one almost lost an eye one time during a friendly sparring match, so.
Yeah, that was, shield please. So what happened to me was, I was sparring with somebody else. You want to demonstrate? I was sparring with somebody else, had my chain on, had my helmet on, had my gloves on, and the sad part of it is, when people get hurt, it's not usually when we're sparring together or we're sparring and putting on a show and actually sparring. This was a photo op where a photographer came to take some photographs of us for our website, and I was fighting somebody, and they went to thrust on me, and I actually thought that they were coming up high, so I brought my shield up like so, and the sword ended up riding right up my shield, went right through the eye hole of my spectacle helmet, and hit me right here on the brow above my right eye. It didn't mean to do it, but accidents happen. So we really restrict thrusts when we're sparring. The big thing is, and it's unfortunate that we have to restrict them, because thrusts are really the most effective. You can't see them coming half the time. You're up here, person comes over the top with their sword, you come up, and then immediately this sharpened piece of metal comes right out from underneath your shield and hits you in the guts. It's extremely easy to hit somebody with a thrust. It's very difficult to hit somebody when you're chopping. If they know what they're doing, they'll block your blows all day, which is again another reason why Alfie likes to throw combos. It's just like when you're a boxer. Somebody throws a punch here and you bring your arm up or you step out of the way. But if they're throwing uppercut and right hooks and left hooks and all that, you really have to be on your feet, or one of them is eventually going to connect. And that's what happens when we're sparring. You throw 4 or 5 blows, one of them's going to connect. And that's just how, it's just how it is. It's just how it is. Well, great job, everybody.